inside story on the issues that affect you and your community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
Nothing is more important to a strong community going forward than its schools. But in a year when more than half the seats on the Cincinnati Board of Education are up for election, the race has received practically no long-term attention. Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. I'm Dan Hurley. Over the last 8 to 10 years, the Cincinnati Public Schools have experienced a remarkable improvement. Test scores have risen to a point that the schools lead all other Ohio urban school systems. Plus, innovative practices such as community learning centers have attracted the attention of the national press and brought school leaders from New York City and elsewhere to Cincinnati to find out what we're doing. The schools are governed by a 7-member board. This year, 4 seats are up for election, and 3 of those are vacant. Melanie Bates is the only incumbent running. Vanessa White is a candidate for Cincinnati City Council, while longtime members Eileen Cooper-Reed and Catherine Ingram have chosen not to run. The result is that the ballot is filled with first-time candidates whose names are unfamiliar to the electorate. Melanie Bates has been a member of the Cincinnati Board of Education since 2002. Martha Good has been on the ballot 3 times for different judicial seats, but never won. The 7 others are first-time candidates who include former teachers, parents of CPS children, a small business person, and several community activists. As with other field races, I only invite non-incumbents to be guests. Of the 8 non-incumbents, I personally know none of them. I have invited 4 to join me this morning. Let me be clear, this is in no way an endorsement of any one or all of these candidates or a comment on those who are not here this morning. On my far right is Erica Copeland-Dansby, who is currently the Director of Resource Development with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Cincinnati. Her son attended Cincinnati Public Schools. Next to her is Elisa Hoffman, a former teacher and the parent of 2 children in the Cincinnati Public Schools. To my left is Betsy Shank, who taught in the Cincinnati Public Schools for 31 years and is now retired, and Daniel Manera, who is the Director of Hispanic Outreach for City Gospel Mission. Everybody, welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. It's really good, and as someone who's been involved in the political activities of this city for over 40 years, it's really good to have new candidates involved and news faces. So let me begin. I decided, rather than try to do short introductions myself, is to let you speak and tell us a little bit about what you think is the special thing that you bring to the Board of Education if you're elected. Betsy, you've taught in the schools for 31 years. Let's start with you.
Thank you. To begin with, I'm a retired teacher of Cincinnati Public Schools. I taught 31 years in CPS. I taught a year at Dater, a year at Lyon Junior High, and then 29 years at Walnut Hills High School. I think that alone is one thing that's very strong and makes me a good candidate for the school board. I'm well equipped to understand the school system and how it works. And probably, as we think about policy, what I can bring to it is we talk about policy, but then how does that translate into the classroom? How's that going to affect the students and the teachers? And that's one thing I can answer when we look at any policy that's going to come up. So I think also the people I've met and worked with throughout the years, the ability to work with different types of people is important, and I'm just ready to work and be on the school board.
Okay, thank you. Daniel, what about you?
Well, Dan, thank you so much for the opportunity of being here. The special thing, because that's your question, the special thing that draws me and what I will be able to bring into the board is, for the past 3 years, I've been integrated in the community in Price Hill on the west side and in downtown Cincinnati, working directly with the students and the families. And when you take an example like Euler, where the community came together to bring about the best for their community and reflected in the school, healthcare, early childhood education. It takes someone like Hockenberry to know the community, to be integrated in the community. I think I bring that to the board as one of the 7 voices that can be able to say, hey, this is exactly what's happening with our families. This is what we need. I don't think we can have the general approach of what needs to happen in every school. We need to be more sensitive of the communities, really empowering the local school decision-making committees, really listening to our faculty and staff at the school and our community partners. And that's the reason why I'm running, and it's one of the reasons that I think it can make a big difference in the board.
I want to draw one more thing out. If I understand correctly, you're an immigrant from Guatemala?
Guatemala.
And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know of another Hispanic, Spanish-speaking immigrant who has been a candidate for office. So well, I think that's, I may be wrong on that, but...
We're making history, that's for sure.
Okay, I think that's one of the things that intrigues me.
Thank you.
Erica.
Great, thank you again for having us in today. I am a native of Cincinnati. I've lived in Cincinnati all my life. I am a parent. I have a child who's in Cincinnati Public Schools. He is a 10th grader at Walnut Hills High School. I've worked in the nonprofit community for the past 25 years. I've served as executive director of one of the larger nonprofits in Over the Rhine. And as you mentioned, I'm currently the development director for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Cincinnati. I would say I bring to the table a wealth of knowledge and experience in having dealt with families and children for so long. I've also managed large budgets. I currently manage a budget. I'm responsible for managing a budget through income of a $4 million budget. I understand the importance of being very fiscally responsible and making sure that resources are being used to the best of their abilities. I also bring to the table a wealth of experience, again, with the nonprofit community and how that interacts with our schools. Community learning centers are very important for our families in the way that they support families through various initiatives. I've implemented those initiatives. I manage one now, and I feel it's very important to have a person at the table who is a parent, a person who actually is a graduate and understands the system, and who also has been entrenched in the community for so very long.
Thank you. We're going to come back to the community. Community learning centers have already been mentioned twice. We're going to come. We'll be coming back to that.
Sure.
And finally, Elisa, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, and thank you again for having us too. Yeah. So I think that what I bring is I'm a parent, teacher, and an education advocate. So I think as a parent, I have twin 4-year-olds, so I'll have 2 CPS kids next year. And so as a parent, I understand that we want to be able to send our kids to our neighborhood school and know that they are being pushed and supported to reach their potential. And as a board member, I think that's important because, we say a lot, we're going to make decisions based on what's best for kids. And so as a parent, every vote you make, every decision you make impacts thousands of kids across the city, but, your own children who you go home to every night as well. And then as a teacher, I understand that perspective as well and just how hard that job is. So I think I could help support our teachers because I also know every child can succeed. I saw it in my classroom. We see it in classrooms across the district, and now we need to make sure it's happening in every classroom. And then as an education advocate, I've been working in that world for 10 years now, really making sure every child has access to a great education. So I think it's that combination.
I want to be clear. Are you a teacher right now?
No, I work on staff at an education nonprofit, and I've been there for 10 years.
Okay. That's what you're not a classroom teacher at the moment,
anymore.
but you've been a classroom teacher.
Right.
Okay. Okay, I want to sort of get at some things that I was able to pull off your websites, and I encourage all the viewers to always go to people's websites, find out a lot more than we can do in this short amount of time. Betsy, let's begin with you. You have a very interesting, and I will invite others to comment on as I each ask you questions, but you have a very interesting thing that you say in your issues area. You want to counteract corporate privatization of public education by limiting the expansion of private education models that undermine the integrity of our public schools by enacting policy that supports our school district. What do you mean by that?
Charter schools.
Okay.
Pure and simple. They drain money from the public school system, and they do not produce, and often they do not produce, in my opinion, do not produce the results they promise to produce. The problem is then that, at least in Ohio, which is the only state I can talk about, they are not shut down. They continue to be in business, draining money and not producing what they're supposed to produce. And the bottom line is kids aren't getting an education. And that's, you know, we
So
can't
what would
have
you,
that.
from the school board's perspective, which isn't the state legislator's perspective, what would you do about charter schools?
Well, I can't, first of all, not having ever been on the board, I don't really know exactly what I can do as a board member, but in my belief of what I can do. I would not go head on with charters. Obviously, what we need to do is make Cincinnati Public Schools so great that nobody wants to leave. Nobody wants to go somewhere else. No one's attracted to another
The reality is that's not the case at the moment, though.
Not at the moment, however. That doesn't mean it couldn't be. And I think, once again, talking about community learning centers, it's a strong model, and it is really having great success so far. So I think it's possible. The thing is, when you institute any new program, it takes a while before we see the benefits.
Mm-hmm. Anybody want to comment on charter schools?
I would too. Oh.
Go.
Okay, sorry. So, I mean, I think one of the wonderful things about the group of candidates that's been, we've really gotten to know each other, and it's a very collegial group, and I think that's going to bode well for whatever combination of us is on the board, because we very much respect each other's opinions and can have different ideas.
What about charter?
So, right, it is. So, I think, for me personally, I think what we've seen is that our parents want choices. So, I have these twin 4-year-olds, and my husband and I joke all the time, the only thing they have in common is a birthday. So we even know within our own little family, our kids are very different, and the kind of education that might work best for them might be very different. So what works for my daughter may not work for my son. And so I think providing choices for our parents is important, but we need to keep them in CPS. So I think models like the new Aiken, where we have Aiken and a public charter school, Carpe Diem, within CPS, within that building, I think that's a model we could go with, because we keep our kids in CPS, but we provide more options for parents.
Before either of you can jump in on this, let me throw the question of expanded voucher opportunities, which lead a lot of students, increasing number of students, not so much to charter schools, obviously, but to Catholic schools. So either of you want to comment on charter or vouchers?
I would like, excuse me, I would like to respond to the charter issue. I agree with Elisa in that we have to provide choices to our parents, but only choices that are regionally sound, that have, you know, performance measures that have been indicated over time, and so you know that those models work. I've visited the Carpe Diem Aiken, and it's an outstanding facility, it's an outstanding model. The results aren't in yet, but you know, that's a demonstration of a true partnership with Cincinnati Public Schools. It is under the auspices of CPS, and I find that to be very important. As it relates to the voucher issue, again, folks want choices, and so if we provide excellence in every single classroom for every child, we would be the schools of choice, and folks wouldn't want to leave the district.
Daniel, comment?
Well, I think the importance to recognize as a board member is that our families definitely, we can't fault our parents for seeking better education somewhere else, and if we're not providing it, we have to accept we're not providing it. I think part of the reason also that we haven't been successful to retain some of the parents that are taking their schools, whether it's charter or parochial, taking advantage of the vouchers, is because we're not promoting ourselves correctly. We talk about wanting to have excellence, we talk about wanting to have diversity in curriculum, but you go and you ask the common person on the street, do you know where your kid's going next year? They don't know. We need to do a better job at promoting our programs, our schools, our I don't know how many people know about Aiken, but we need to be out there and talking about how great Cincinnati Public Schools are.
In this first part, I've got time for maybe one more question. One of the things that you bring up on your website is reforming the teacher hiring practices so that we end up with better teachers. I want to raise that in the context of how much control do you really have, given the fact that that's really, the preparation of teachers is really controlled on the university level. So what do you mean by reforming the system?
That's a really good question. So first of all, we have lots of outstanding teachers in CPS. The problem that I'm specifically addressing is the fact that we have an aging teaching population. So we're seeing triple-digit retirements, a couple hundred teachers retiring every year, and we don't have a system in place to replace those veteran teachers with the highest quality teachers, because right now we can't make an offer to an external person, so someone who's not already in CPS, until the summer. like July or August, which is literally 2 months behind surrounding districts.
Why is that?
It's because of how our current contract is written, which is really important because this board, one of the first things we'll do is work with the teachers union to work on that contract. And so if we want the best talent, we have to be able to make people an offer at the same time other districts are making offers. So it's not that we don't have great teachers already, it's that they're retiring. And I mean, just bottom line, we have to be able to compete with surrounding districts for that talent.
Okay. Bessie, you've been a teacher a long time in the system. You're endorsed by the teachers union. What do you say to that? Do we have a problem with the contract?
Okay, I've been retired 3 years, and there's been a whole new contract since I've been retired. So I'm not versed with the present one as far as working through it, being part of it. I would say that because we're losing so many teachers for various reasons, we'll stick with aging population because I'm kind of part of that. I think that we could do some things to speed up that process, certainly. The hiring process involves, you know, the central office, the principals, a group of teachers who are interviewing, etc. It's not just a come in at 2 and I can make you an offer at 5, although sometimes that happens. So there is that. But I think that we do have flexibility. And
so the question though is, as a board member, are you ready to take on, and this happens to be the issue that we're talking about right now, but really as a board member endorsed by the Federation, can you negotiate a hard position to change things that, whether it's this or other things, that you think don't work?
Certainly, because the union's open to that. I mean, we want what works for kids.
Okay, believe it or not, I'm out of time for the first part of this. Stay tuned. All the candidates will stay right here and continue this discussion. Welcome back. I'm joined this morning by 4 candidates for the Cincinnati Board of Education: Betsy Shank, Daniel Manera, Elisa Hoffman, and Erica Copeland Dansby. Okay, let's pick up a different topic. And there's been a lot of interest generated over the past 9 months or so in the concept of a preschool promise, and which would create the possibility for low-income families to send 4-year-olds to a quality preschool. Let that be the summary. The real issue I want to ask is, do you support that? And 2, do you support what's going to be coming next year sometime as a tax levy that will be on the ballot, probably in May? Erica?
I absolutely support preschool. All the data shows the importance for preschool. Kids are better able to move forward when they enter as kindergarteners. I've even done research and learned about incarceration rates as it relates to early childhood education. The very beginning of my career, I spent 2 years in the classroom teaching at the preschool level, and so I absolutely support that.
And do you support a levy?
I would support a school levy depending on everything that's in it. I wouldn't jump out and say only for preschool. There are so many other important issues that relate to our district that would need to be.
Well, this will probably be a standalone.
For preschool.
For preschool.
Yeah, I absolutely support preschool. It is very expensive. We've looked at some price tags as it relates to that. It's absolutely necessary and does absolutely, you know, need to happen.
Daniel.
Well, definitely, early childhood education is key, especially with the community that we work here in Cincinnati. But we need to go a little further than that. We also need to look at parent resources from birth to kindergarten. We need to find ways and programs to use our community learning center approach, not only to, yes, establish early childhood education, pre-kindergarten, but also resource centers that parents can come in and figure out how to get their kids ready even for that stage. As far as the levy, I would tell you, I see it difficult to pass just the levy for early childhood education. However, through the community learning center approaches and our community partnerships, we need to push the public relationships and public to private and non-for-profits to come on board, whether it's with higher institutions of education, community partnerships, and just find ways to fund these programs that are so needed. And the advantage is not just for those families around the school, but all over the city.
Okay. For the 2 people who haven't gotten a comment on this yet, a quick yes or no on the preschool promise. And then let's pick up on the community learning centers and what you think the future of that is in the Cincinnati Public Schools.
Yeah,
Lisa,
absolutely. Yes, on the preschool promise.
Okay.
Yes. I mean,
you have 4-year-olds.
I do have 4-year-olds. Yes, I'm a little bit invested. They go to an amazing Head Start site preschool, so we know that preschool works for everyone. Yes.
So what about community learning centers? Do you think this is an initiative that needs to be expanded in Cincinnati Public Schools?
Yes, absolutely. Our community learning centers are really unique opportunities in Cincinnati to support our kids, our families, our communities, and our teachers. I think as a teacher, one of the things that could be frustrating a lot was that I think often you are expected to teach away all of the problems that our kids come to us with, when that's not realistic. You know, I can't teach through a kid not being able to see and not having access to vision care, and so things like that. You know, I can't teach away a kid who hasn't eaten breakfast. You know, there's a lot of issues that our teachers are facing, and our families and our kids. And these community learning centers, when we partner with a community and we really figure out what does that unique community need, and not one size fits all for every school, but what does this school, this community need, and we provide those resources, it benefits the community, the families, the children, the teachers.
I agree with preschool education. It's extremely important, especially since Head Start is dwindling, for lack of a better term.
Because of funding, primarily.
Because of funding, yes, absolutely. I think that the community learning centers certainly can be involved in getting the preschool education happening. We can use the resources that are there that are unique to each community. And the model for community learning centers is a solid one. We have 32, I believe, right now. We have 55 schools. Not every school is going to be a community learning center, and that's understood. But we can have more, and we can also have more services at the ones that we do have presently.
Okay. I'm going to just give you a sense that we don't have more than about 3 minutes left. We've got 4 people here. Let's start, Betsy, with you. What about the question of tying teacher pay increases to performance of their students? Do you think that's a smart idea? And secondly, do you think CPS is approaching it the right way at the current time?
Well, smart idea. There's so many variables with how kids learn, what they learn, and when they learn it, that it's difficult to say, in this finite period of time of 1 year, you know, you're going to have this. What I would look at is the percentage that is going to count for the teacher's salary for one. That's one model I've seen, is that it's hooked up to what teachers are paid, and the other is just, you know, their performance. I think we do that already, but it's just not an official thing, certainly.
Daniel, how do you feel about tying pay to performance?
You know, I think
based on testing.
I think it all comes down to accountability, and it all comes down to really not only holding the teachers accountable. I don't think it's a smart approach, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think there needs to be more accountability, ways of not only assessing the teachers but also administration. You know, we talked about hiring the best of the teachers. Well, we need to also think of ways to recruit international teachers. So. Could it work? It could work, but we would need to really look at all the other factors and all the other levels of administration and leadership in the district.
Okay, good point.
Yep. I think if you ask any teacher, what's your job? A teacher is going to respond, my job is to make sure my students learn. So I think, you know, at a baseline, everyone would agree that children making progress is the job of a teacher. However, I don't think one test is what determines whether or not a child has learned. So I think we need to figure out how it is we're going to actually assess how much a child has learned.
What's the assessment tool?
Exactly. And we need to make sure from the get-go our teachers know what they're being assessed on. I think we haven't even agreed on that across the district, and that's no way to run a district. And to Daniel's point, it's not just teachers. We have administrators, school board members, et cetera, who need to be held accountable as well.
Erica, about 30 seconds.
Absolutely. It's an accountability issue. With 30 seconds, though, I would say we're also responsible for helping building out our teachers and providing robust professional development for them so that they are prepared to teach our children. And I think that should be a big part of the conversation as well.
Okay.
Definitely.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Join us again next week for a discussion on issue 4, the ballot issue to change the Cincinnati city pension system. If you missed our live hour-long debate last Tuesday between Roxanne Qualls and John Cranley, you can now watch it online at local12.com. The two candidates will also be my guest on Newsmakers the last Sunday before the election. Have a good week.